Greetings and welcome to the vlog. I am Super Dwarf, this here is my Dodge Ram, and this week we are doing one of the most substantial upgrades you can ever do to your Dodge Ram. Here in these boxes and scattered about the property, we have an entire Carly pin top system from CJC Off-Road. If you're questioning the packaging, that is fair. This is not exactly how it shows up from them. Everything is rewrapped and repackaged because we sent the entire kit off to get redone in prismatic powders lollipop red. Now, real time, you can see we do already have some of our parts on the truck. We did originally receive parts December of 2023, but there was a whole debacle with powder coating that we're not even going to bother talking about. It has delayed us all the way until now. But either way, we have our parts here. Some things we had to take off the truck once we parked it, powder coat them then, blah, blah, blah. And then we had some friends come over and they were able to get us to this point. So now we're going to pick up with the track bar.
Well, that's not supposed to be that loose already.
Quick little install tip while we're here. Your center pins. Ours were incredibly rusty. And so we went and we put the new leaves in, tried to drop them down, and they didn't go in. So, like our axle pockets up front and our track bar pocket, make sure you clean that out. And it's good to receive your new part before you try to put it in.
This one's held enough if you want to go to the other side. That one's held by itself.
Whoop, whoop. Hang on. Hold on. Okay. Well, that, do you want to spin it around to match that one?
Yeah.
Where the coil is cut is in the front. On, farther, a little farther, 1 more inch. Yeah, that's good. We'll go. Now that it is all together, before we get to the action, we find ourselves on jack stands again. I say again because real time, we have already road tripped the truck from Denver down to DFW, Texas for 2K and back. And we've also been down to Pueblo. We're north of Denver. We did some burnouts, came back, everything's been retorqued, all that good stuff. So, here's your overview. Start here on our driver corner. Now, as I probably said in the beginning of the video, this is the Carly Pin Top 2.5 system, but it is a full 3-inch lift. The 2.5 is going to be referring to the diameter of the King shocks in here, which, as you can see, we got the cool reservoir up there. There is powder-coated mounts behind there, and then we took some heat shrink, wrapped them around our clamps so that they match the custom stickers we also made. Next up, we have the coil. This is one of the key parts of the whole kit, along with your rear leaf springs, as far as making the vehicle ride better. Now, traditionally, when you see the front of these second gens at 3 inches, it's the coil spring, and then there's a big fat spacer on top. So you don't get any extra ride quality, you just get the 3 inches. Now, since we're getting the full lift and everything from the coil here, and it is a progressive coil at that, the ride is 1,000,000 times better just from that alone. And then the King shock, that is what helps control your new up and down ride movement. And then, probably next up on importance for ride would be the Thurin Progressive Rate sway bar in here. Normally there is a Thurin logo right there on the side. We just haven't remade that sticker quite yet. But whenever you go to pull into like a driveway or a big steep transition, and then the window feels like it's going to come over and Will Smith you right in the side of the face, well, that softens that up dramatically while still allowing a sway bar to be a sway bar. And then to wrap up the actual pin top kit as far as this corner, you'll see behind our limit strap right here, we have the bracket for the Thurin track bar. And that'll probably be the third most important thing as far as handling goes for this overall kit. And even if you don't get the whole kit, that right there will do absolute wonders for your second gen. As you can see right here on this truck. See the Thurin bracket in there. I did also have a badge like that is white. We didn't rivet it on though. I JB welded it like the last time that it was on the truck, because I didn't think about that limit strap. And you'll see the scuff mark on the powder from the limit strap. As soon as we hit a decent bump, it just yoinked it right off onto the road somewhere. So I'm gonna have to get another one. But you can also see the factory coil spring and that big fat spacer I was telling you about. So this truck is just a smidge taller than that one, but it rides like an absolute brick doing so. Couple extra things we did over here to wrap up the driver corner that are not part of the kit. Powdered spacer again. We took our catch can and had that all powdered up. Made the nice Dr. Pepper sticker for it. And then we have our custom coil badges from OG diesel plates. And then up above there, kind of tucked in the shadows, we also powdered the stock shock tower, which that's why the system is called the pin top system, because of the shock mounting. That's what gives you all the extra travel. A lot of times you'll see people delete the shock tower and think that that's an improvement, but really all you're doing is losing shock travel, which the second gens so desperately need. And then come back this way, poke our head down here. That is going to be our Proform long arm kit. We got that from our buddy Joe Garza, 24V down in Texas. And it does have Heim joints modified onto the frame side of it there, so we have even more articulation than before. That setup is not done either, because as you'll see, there's a nice big gap between that bracket and our track bar here, which we will get to. In the coming weeks, we are going to make a cardboard template to go from there to basically make ourselves a mini center cradle that's going to give this frame side bracket some more support so we can more comfortably get after it off-road with our long arms here. But so far they have held up fantastic. And then our steering setup on the truck, we also had repowdered while doing this. Our tie rod and drag link there also came from our buddy Joe Garza 24V down in San Antonio. That is going to be 2-inch DOM with 1.25" Heims on it. Nice and overkill. And then you'll see our stabilizer down there. Give him a real close-up of that super awesome custom sticker I made. King doesn't actually make a stabilizer for these trucks that I'm aware of or could find. So we made that one, fit right in. And then poke your head right on down in here. One of my favorite parts is going to be our Spelab Auto Parts diff cover. We got them front and rear. They are extra capacity. They got a nice drain plug down on the bottom. A good like little floaty ball, that's what I've been calling it, like level checker thing. And then up here on the top, they got a super nice fill plug on it, as well as the fins to go around the curved cover, just like the Banks one. Because that's what everybody asked me. Here. They're like, why didn't you put Banks covers on it? Well, that's because Banks doesn't make second-gen covers. So go comment in their comments and maybe they will. But we have our Speedlab Auto Parts diff covers. They look fantastic, just like our exhaust is still looking and sounding fantastic. And you can use code DEVIN for anything site-wide. www.speedlabautoparts.com. We finally have color matched bumper hooks, so people can stop crying about them being a different color red. We did our side little brackets here red because they look cool. We refreshed our steering gearbox brace, which is attached to our red head gearbox, which has been in the truck since early or maybe late 2020. Really, most of the truck's life. We did adjust that up just a little bit, but otherwise it is still kicking. Passenger corner is pretty much the same story, except you get a little bit better view of our ginormous Heim joints over here. And then we do also have, I didn't pull them apart and color match them because they work good and I don't want to mess them up. I've never done it before. Power stop brake calipers to go with our, the sun there. Currently rusty Detroit axle drilled and slotted brake rotors. And then again, our Proform long arms. And if you're driving a Dodge Ram and you don't have long arms, well, I'm not really sure what you're doing because you need some long arms. Now, we have another trip. Now that we're back at the rear, it is also a different day. It's a cold and rainy one, but we're in the middle of another task, which gives us a great opportunity to show you both ways that we'll be running the rear suspension. As designed from Carly and CJC and whatnot, we have the full replacement leaf pack here, which takes out that big block, which is what originally gives you the axle wrap that we're going to explain next. So that makes things way more sturdy on its own. We've obviously powder coated the supplied U-bolts Lollipop red. You reuse this top factory plate here, and then our lower brackets we did replace those as well because ours were disgusting. And then up here we have our Timbren bump stops, because when you remove the big block down here, it has a little thing that sticks off the side, which would normally hit the bump stop over there. With it gone, we have to extend it down, so we of course powdered that. We didn't powder coat the leaf springs, and we should have. I fully regret that one, but we'll do that at some point. And then come down in here a little further. That is our overload bump stop bracket thingy right there. Used to be there. We removed that. We removed the sway bar bracket that was right there so that you can see our nice king shock there. We also took an exhaust hanger thing that was no longer needed right there. And then these three holes were the other overload bump stop thing. So once we touch up our undercoating, when winter has fully released us of its burden, this is going to look insanely clean compared to the disgusting stock setup that it was. And it rides amazing. These leaf springs are one of the biggest contributing factors to this package to make it do what it does. We also had the spacers powder coated, and we got one of those exhaust elbows that is normally chrome. The whole trend thing that everybody had, and we powdered it white. So that's one of 8 different exhaust setups I have now. If you could go down in there and give them a real nice shot of our Speedlab diff cover. We got one back here as well. We paired that up with a lube locker gasket, because the rear one didn't come with one like the front one did. But another shout out to Speedlab Auto Parts. Don't forget to use code DEVIN for anything site-wide. Then we have the same setup on this side, of course, except your shock goes on the rear. And then you'll see the addition of our traction bars, which on top of looking fantastic, in the normal situation they'd be used in would prevent axle wrap. But as I said earlier, when you remove the big leaf pack block, the new leaf pack is so sturdy, we've had 0 issues with axle wrap. Insert burnout again. first put the traction bars on, they were purely for looks. We had no transmission to be doing any burnouts on. So I had these brackets made so that they hung down from the U-bolt bracket really far and dramatic like, just to look cool. And then for a bit we had a transmission, so then we were able to do burnouts and they were necessary. Now they're not necessary again, they're mainly here for looks, but we have all of our suspension, so we want to retain as much function as possible. Now when we're really out romping the truck, we will pull the bars off. But for the most part, since we have taken our big bracket away and gone with the traditional, come on, right here, weld-on mounts you can see there, and tucked them in all the way to the wheel, they are a lot more low profile. And from the outside of the truck, the bar just disappears behind the drum, and so it looks just as slick as all the rest of our suspension. So we get all the looks and functionality, and we should still be able to drive it off-road for the most part without having to remove the bars every time. To further define axle wrap, it's when you're trying to do a four-wheel drive boosted launch or a burnout and stand on the brakes and apply power. So the rear wheels want to go, but you're controlling the truck from fully going in some other manner. In which, with the factory block that sits that high off the axle will then want to fold forward, which then disrupts your pinion angle and most of the time makes the wheels want to hop on the ground. So then your transmission is sitting there going traction, no traction, traction, no traction, along with bouncing everything else, and it just leads to very bad things. And the more power you have while axle hopping, the more expensive the bill gets at the end of the day. So if you obviously have this nice sturdy metal bar from your axle to your frame, then it can't move forward. No more axle wrap. Alrighty, that is actually where we're going to wrap this video up, because we just made a whole other trip with the truck to experience our wonderful suspension through the mountains. And if I were to include all of the driving stuff along with what you just saw, you'd be sitting here for like a 45-minute long video. According to the analytics, you guys are into that. If you happen to be, do drop it in the comments and let me know. But for now, that is it. Stay tuned for the next video where we show you all of the action of our awesome new suspension from CJC Off-Road. And if you guys give them a shout, it doesn't matter what Dodge Ram, Ford, Chevy, Duramax, GMC, they can get you set up and riding better in some form or fashion. Don't forget to hit the like button, and if you're new, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That way we see you next time. Until then, I am Super Dwarf, and have yourself a fantastic day.